Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to be here to talk about matching gifts, all of the latest in matching gifts. I told Puya today that I woke up excited that we got to learn together today. I'm very excited to learn all of the research you've been working on at Match Nice. Before we get started, I had a couple of announcements. So while folks get logged in, first, if you're joining us, say hi, let us know where you're logging in from. Would love to have you just drop a little note about where you are tuning in from. Additionally, I see a couple of AI tools logging in. I will be bumping those out. So just note that if you have an AI tool, I'll be bumping those out. I know they automatically join sometimes. Um, a little bit of sort of a PSA. I wanted to share with everyone about what is going on with GoFundMe. I don't know if you've seen the news lately, but GoFundMe launched an effort in over the past couple of months that developed 1.4 million fundraising pages for nonprofits without the permission of the nonprofit. There's a lot of media about this right now. It's being reported in the Nonprofit Times. And there are some actions that I recommend you take because we're finding that most organizations we work with have been impacted by this. The unfortunate implication is that it may mean that the SEO of the GoFundMe page is overriding your SEO. So if folks type in donate to a cause, they might get the GoFundMe page. There is a 16.5 suggested tip on the end of the GoFundMe donation. So if someone makes a gift through there, it is tipping your donors, and it's sitting in a holding pattern unless you claim it. So I wanted to just flag this for folks so that you knew of this news and you could do some research. You can go to GoFundMe to see if they created a website for you. And just wanted to give everyone that heads up so you could be aware and take some control over your giving pages and not have a giving page out there floating that you didn't know about. Additionally, I wanted to just share that today we are recording our session. We will be having this session available to you for on-demand viewing as well. A couple of key things you can find. All of our webinars are listed on our website, so the webinar will be shared here out afterwards. We will also email it to all of you afterwards, so you will be able to get a copy of the webinar so you can share it with your leadership team and board members and other folks that you feel like should be in the know. We want to thank all of our education sponsors that make our education webinars possible. A big thank you to OneCause, the fundraising event company, Golf Status, and Zach Putnam Productions. Additionally, we encourage you to check out our podcast. The Fundraising Elevator podcast launches every week with new information you can use for your fundraising. We believe that together we can all head up. And we want to encourage you to register for next month's webinar. We will have a webinar talking about 3 keys to $1 million event and a little sort of insider intel. We will be talking about matching gifts at that time as well. So today's webinar should be able to prep us for our next webinar. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to introduce Puya here from Match Nice. And Puya, I'm so glad to have you joining us today. I'm going to turn it over to you because I can't wait. I have my pen, I have my paper. I'm ready to take lots of notes.
Well, Samantha, thanks for the opportunity to connect with your incredible community of fundraisers. I'm really excited to be here. And with your plug for the podcast, I also have a podcast, The Nonprofit Lab, and episode 71 was with Samantha. So if you're interested in our conversation where we go deeper into the world of events and fundraising in general, Samantha is the expert for that. So check out the Nonprofit Lab, episode 71. Samantha and I get to have a real talk. So a little bit about myself. My name is Puya Porak. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Match Nice. We're on a mission to inspire more giving by making social donation matching easy for nonprofits and donors. I'll share a little bit more about like what does that even mean? What does that look like? How does it work? But for today, what we really want to focus on is the latest research on the state of matching based on a survey of a couple hundred plus nonprofit fundraisers. And there's a lot of really interesting insights that have come from this report that we at Match Nice are looking at closely to inform what does the future of matching look like based on the current feedback and experiences of nonprofits and fundraisers like yourself? I would highly encourage everyone throughout this presentation to drop any questions as we're going through this. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for really interesting, insightful dialogue. So just want to encourage everyone to feel free to participate as we go through this presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk about the future of donation matching and how we can really redefine the next era of generosity together. So where is all of this coming from? And let me just do a quick adjustment on the screen. We did a research survey with 208 fundraising professionals across the US about how they use matching today. And we got a pretty strong, diverse breadth of feedback. We listened to the real needs, the challenges, all the opportunities from all sizes of organizations. So the data that you're going to see is reflective of kind of across the board, no matter the size of nonprofits. Where are we kind of getting the pulse of matching today? One question we asked in a poll for our last webinar is like, what comes to mind first when you think of donation matching? And the first thing is employer matching, right? This is Puya working for Delta Airlines, donating to Habitat for Humanity. Delta matches my donation to Habitat. So that's almost half of people when they think of donation matching. It's like a great tool, double the donation. They're awesome. They do a really great job of making that corporate employer matching connection easier for nonprofits and donors. The second thing that came up is individual donor matching. There's a huge opportunity here, right? Like, how do we democratize matching, not just to our wealthiest donors, major donors, but like everybody, your everyday givers? And we'll talk about how the results from this research are informing our approach at MatchNice to think about how do we increase access for your supporters to participate in a match. And of course, like a staple of matching is corporate or foundation matching. You know, Bank of America putting up a match for Susan G. Komen every October as an example, creating those connections. So looking at just the landscape of matching, these are really the three primary sources of what come to mind and like how matching works today. And as I said, at MatchNice, our focus is not on the employer side, it's on the social side, where any individual company or foundation can put up a match directly for your organization. I'm not going to do like a full pitch of like what is MatchNice and how it works. I'm happy to if we have time at the end, but really want to focus more on the insights and the research from this study. So we know nonprofits love to match, right? We asked, how often do you do matching? And the majority of fundraisers do a matching campaign at least once a year, right? It's a really powerful tool to inspire more giving. And we've got data across like many different resources that we looked at that shows that there's a boost in conversion rates, a boost in revenue, a boost in average gift sizes. And we know this works. And our position is that matching isn't really this like nice to have. It's really imperative. It's a really core, important strategy to consider, especially right now in the climate that we're in with federal funds being cut and the urgency to diversify fundraising sources being super high. So at MatchNice, we've done some testing to see, does this hold up? Does this research actually reflect what we're seeing with our customers when we activate donation matching? So one case study, Jewish Story Partners, they just wrapped up a match, and they saw almost a 4x increase in individual online giving revenue, almost double average gift size, and almost double the total number of donations made compared to their previous campaign where they didn't run a match. LCMD Research Foundation, they also used the match and raised more in that 30-day period with the match than they had in the previous 6 months online. So we know matching can really reinvigorate your donor base. And also, we saw that 2x increase in average gift size from the match. And RX Outreach, this is a really interesting case study because RX Outreach is a $20+ million organization, but most of their funding comes from grants and from program revenue. And they said, hey, we want to try to diversify our fundraising and move towards individual giving, and launch their first major individual giving campaign with a match. And we're able to double their donor base in a 30-day period with that match. And for us, that was kind of a key insight of like matching not only can boost your revenue and all of the fundraising results that every fundraiser is looking for, but it's also a really effective tool in raising donor awareness, cultivating existing donors, engaging them, but also attracting new donors to your mission and cause. The opportunity around matching is very untapped and very large. So there's up to $4 billion a year in individual matching opportunities missed every single year. There's over $1.5 billion on the table for matches if just 10% of major donors or mid-level donors made a $10,000 match for nonprofits per year. And that's a really simple like ask, right? Like, hey, you were going to give us $10,000 this Giving Tuesday. Thank you for doing that every year for the last 5 years. Let's put that up as a match this year and inspire more giving. And there's a whole nother world here that we're really interested in, which is how do we unlock the $250+ billion sitting in charitable assets with donor advised funds, not just as a source for matching, but also as donations that can be matched. And we're really happy to share that we just concluded a DAF matching pilot with Chariot for DAF Day, where we were able to prove that, hey, donor advised funds can be used. And we're just at the very beginning of, as a sector, like poking a little hole into that pool of funds and getting more of those donor advised funds into the hands of nonprofits. Samantha, what's up? You came on screen.
I did come on screen because I wanted to emphasize the opportunity there. We right now are seeing that federal grants are falling away, and so many organizations are struggling to figure out where they can fill that gap. And I just wanted to highlight the opportunity here, the evolution that's happening in the DAF sector, and the ability to start to unlock some of this to $251 billion. We've already started to see a lot of organizations activating around that. And I just want to emphasize, now is not the time to wait, right? As we start to see things change, it's the time to take action in moving things forward and innovating. And there is an untapped opportunity. I'm excited to learn more about how you're seeing people leverage that, but I just want to flag that that is a lot of resource that is set aside and intended for nonprofits.
Yeah. And, I think there is just in general a massive opportunity to unlock donor advised funds for giving. But our lens is like, how do we tap into that as a source to inspire everyday donors to give, whether it's through their DAF or not? So we think matching is a great avenue to also unlock some more of those funds. And Samantha, I'm curious to hear, I know I shared some of the case studies here with like how we're boosting, matching is boosting conversions, giving, gift sizes, revenue, donor acquisition. Can you share what you're seeing as part of the events where you have a match versus where you're not? And does this kind of have parity to the data that you're seeing?
It does. It absolutely has parity. We're seeing that organizations are able to leverage in the paddle raise moment a very strategic campaign leveraging matching gift funds. And so we have a lot of organizations right now that are doing a couple of key asks before their fundraising event to make sure that they have some gifts lined up that can be leveraged as a match. The idea being that you're trying to motivate collective action. You're motivating that sense of my dollar can create bigger impact. And you're motivating that moment where people feel like they can jump in and be a part of reaching a big goal. So when you say we need to have 10 gifts at $1,000 to meet this $10,000 match, it's sort of an incentive and an opportunity to sort of step into that superhero space and really be a part of that. Like, we hit it, we made it, we hit that goal. And that's a really powerful motivator. It creates kind of a sense of connection, bigger impact than just your own dollar.
Yeah, and we've done quite a bit of research on the psychology of matching and why it works. And I kind of want to do a little bit of a off the cuff thing and pull up a different presentation. As I pull this up, I just want to highlight a few things around matching, right? So we know it's supposed to increase conversions, gift size, and acquisition, but like, where does that come from? And all of our research points to these 9 factors being like the biggest drivers and motivators. So there's the social proof, right? Like, who the sponsor is, or that this is real, this is a credible match. Maybe they're in the room with you at the event, maybe it's a
Mhm.
sponsor. There's that urgency factor, right? Like, we have to hit this deadline, there's a specific window for this, we have to take action. There's that free effect of like the BOGO, right? Like, less effort, more impact. And that ties to like the amplified impact, right? Like, you feel like your money is going further, it's being doubled, tripled, progress, right? Like, we love to see the needle move on the work that we're doing. So I that sense of belonging of like, I can help meet this goal, and the community that creates in terms of like, I'm part of something bigger. I think giving online as it is through a donation box like can feel a little transactional and also like a bit isolated, right? But when you're part of a peer-to-peer campaign, you're part of an event where you're surrounded by people who share your values, believe in the same mission, you really foster this sense of community and this sense that you're a part of something bigger. And there's also this reciprocity factor of like paying it forward, right? Like,
Mhm.
we're in this together. And of course, like the loss aversion, right? Like, you have that coupon that you're like, oh, I gotta go and like take advantage of this before it expires. So you don't want to miss this. And I think the biggest thing like that ties to any strong fundraising campaign is this tie back to identity, right? Like, I want to feel like I'm a generous person. I want to feel like I'm part of the team that is driving this mission. And I think matching is a really great way to tap into all of these things. And I think it's what also is core to driving some of the boosts and conversions and gift size and acquisition and revenue and engagement and beyond.
I would add here, all 9 of these seem to be the benefits and the psychology to the individual who meets a match, who steps into the match. But I would add that for the individual who is giving the match or establishes the match, there is also an added benefit because they feel like they can leverage their generosity of a large gift. I'm thinking more specifically like DAF funds, big donors, major donors, a little bit less in the corporate sector, but in corporate giving, sometimes there is that same benefit of I want our support to be leveraged to you to generate more support. And one of the things that we see often is that if you go to a major donor, if you go to an individual that has been a large contributor and you have a strategy conversation with them about being that match, about stepping up to be that challenge, oftentimes it garners a lot of respect and a lot of excitement and an investment from that donor that we've even had that donor then get involved in helping you meet the match. So we had a
Mm.
case study that was an organization we wrote up as a case study, and I'll share the link so people can take a look at it. And we also have a podcast episode with that development director coming out, in which we had a single individual with $100,000 contribution, and her primary goal was, how do I make my 100,000 turn into $1 million for the organization? And so we created a matching gift strategy that matched it. We called it an anchor gift. It was matching it multiple times. So at that $100,000 level, we got 2 donors at 50, 4 donors at 25, 10 at 10, 20 at 5, etc. So we were able to create this momentum and incentive around continuing to show up and show her that you valued her large contribution, and make her $100,000 anchor turn into $1 million gift. So I think there's benefit to the person who jumps in. I'm certainly one of these people. When I know there's a match, I'm much more likely to donate. And also, I want to see that match made. So if I'm live in an event sitting in the audience, I will frequently wait to the end of the match to make sure, are they going to get it? Are they going to get it? And if they don't, I jump in that pool because I want to make sure they hit that match. So I think that these 9 sort of psychology elements tap so much into the the donor who's stepping in to meet it. But I also think there's all these other psychology benefits and buy-in and engagement that comes from the donor who's establishing the match.
That's such a great point, Samantha. And I think that's one of the things that I love about the world of matching is that there's this strong thread that connects matchers to donors to your organization, where there's a mutual benefit and impact for every role that's played, right? Matchers and donors double their impact. Nonprofits also get that doubled impact as well. And it's this movement of collective generosity, which I think is a trend that we're going to see more of and need to see more of, especially as that urgency to diversify funds continues
I
to
agree.
grow.
Well, I just shared in the chat the link to our case study, and we'll have the development director on our podcast in a few weeks, Brandon Lindsay, to share his story about talking to each of those donors. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, thanks for the conversation. That was really insightful, Samantha. So we know matching is really powerful for events, but also across the board. So let's talk a little bit more about what we learned from our research. So we asked, who would your organization most likely prioritize as a matcher? And surprising, we noticed that everyday donors came up as second, right? Mid-level donors are great, got that $1,000 to $10,000 contribution. It's easy to ask them. It's, these are people who often give to your organization on a regular basis. They're people you can count on. You've had that stewardship relationship with them. Um, that's really a great first place to start. But the second point here was something that surprised us, which is nonprofits really want to engage their everyday donors, people who are giving $100, like up to $1,000 in gifts. And there's really not a lot of solutions out there that make that easy. So we're asking ourselves, like, how can we help nonprofits empower their existing donor base? And I think this is where, we're trying to move the sector as well, is not making matching something that's just exclusive to the wealthiest donors out there, but creating this mutual high five between your entire community of supporters. So that's one of the insights that we've taken action on. And then corporate sponsors were next. Of course, that's likely because we've got those rhythms, those playbooks, those frameworks in place, those relationships that make it easy to create that connection between our corporate sponsors and putting up a match. And then also surprising to us was that major donors came in fourth place. So part of the insight there is that we think that it's largely because organizations typically have a very cultivated, planful sequence of engaging major donors. And matching may or may not be part of an organization's strategy for how they like to tap into their major donors. But we thought this was pretty interesting and also highlights this big opportunity of the future of matching is like expanding the definition of who can be a matcher. This was a poll that we did, which is interesting. And this gets into the world of transparency around matching. So we asked these fundraisers, if you saw a donation match promoted on a nonprofit's website today, how would you perceive it? And what was shocking to us is that less than half of fundraisers saw that matching donations, like they believed that it was actually truly contingent on donations, meaning that about half of nonprofit leaders feel like, hey, it's just pre-secured funds that are being marketed as a match. And when we look at the 33% category, people saying, well, like it may be massaged to look like something it's not. And 21% saying like it's not real at all. Now, this is kind of the way that the matching world has worked for the last decade. And I think where we want to see a movement towards is more transparency, more real-time visibility. Who is the matcher? How much is the match actually? Where are we with the progress? And our solution does that. And again, if we have time, I'm happy to share a little bit more of that. But here's the big question this led us to, which is, does this actually matter to donors? So we're doing some additional research to figure out, like, is there any kind of movement if a donor knows that a match is contingent or not contingent at all? So this is, I think, a pretty big open question when it comes to matching, and especially everything going on with what Samantha mentioned earlier with GoFundMe Pro. I think the light and the focus on transparency, not just from fundraising platforms, but for nonprofits as well, as donors are kind of being pulled into some of the controversy here, is going to be more heightened. But I want to give some examples of like, what does the current state of matching for many organizations look like? So Exhibit A, this is, and I've kind of blocked out some of the names of the organizations, not trying to kind of point fingers or like say this is the wrong way. This is just the way that it is today. It's communicating like, hey, we have a match, like we're going to double your impact. But what's missing here, right? Like as a donor, I don't know how much is available. I don't have a sense of like, who was that sponsor? That may or may not matter to me. I don't know how far along we are with this match. So there are some questions that this may raise for your donors, but again, how it works. Looking at Exhibit B, right? It's a lot of text and it just says, hey, there's a 4X match. And there is quite a bit of text here. And as a donor, it's putting a lot of onus on me to try to understand some of the details around matching and what the terms are. And again, where are we at? Exhibit C, this was in response to severe floods in Texas on 4th of July of this year. And, looking at this again, like I have to look through and it's the very last sentence at the bottom, couple sentences here that says donations made up to 250K, are live to this date. But again, where are we at? Who's the matching sponsor? How far along are we, and like what kind of impact are we making? So this is kind of the current state of for the most part of how matching is working, and we're using all of the research that we're sharing right now to kind of take this to a next level and build more of that transparency. So the next question we asked, which was really interesting, and I want you to ask this to yourself. Do you know what the difference is between a match and a challenge? We asked this question and we saw that like about half of fundraisers didn't know the difference. So our position is that it doesn't really matter what you call it. It doesn't matter if you're calling it a match or challenge. What matters is how you're explaining to donors what that is, right? So technically, the textbook definition of a match is that there's a multiplier. You give, we match. It's contingent on donations. A challenge is typically an all or nothing unlock situation. We have a $10,000 challenge. If we hit the goal, we get the 10. If we don't, we don't. So that's kind of the textbook definition. But again, like we see these terms used interchangeably. And after talking to like dozens of fundraisers and getting dozens of different answers on what this definition is, we just kind of landed on like, yeah, does it really matter what you call it? No. What matters more is like how you're communicating with your donors about like how does it work? What are the terms? Hey, Samantha.
Hey, I was going to add in the event space, this is something that we see oftentimes because it's live on a stage, that in order to create clarity, we are very specific in the language we give the auctioneer. And the first thing that we do is we either indicate that we have a donor who is willing to match dollar for dollar. You give, they will match. Or we indicate this donor has made a donation in hopes of inspiring you to step up and match. So we're specific with that language to make sure it's clear and that there's no confusion. But there is an infamous story of a game-changing match that happened here in Oregon, where we're at. And some of my Oregon friends may remember it was a multi-million-dollar matching gift challenge that had to do with a call to action to cure cancer. And Phil Knight, who is one of the founders of Nike, changed the conversation dramatically when he had a conversation with a researcher and said, "What do you need to do to cure cancer?" And the researcher told him how much money was needed, basically, so that that dollar amount became the benchmark. And Phil Knight said, "I will donate half of that if you can go raise the other half." It changed the landscape of matching gifts in Oregon because the conversation was everywhere. It was such a big gift. It was such a big challenge. And this like collective action that really inspired a ton of giving. And I know we have some folks on the call that have worked with a lot of DAFs before, that I know part of this was a lot of folks with big donor advised funds wanting to be a part of that like big audacious goal, that it was a big audacious goal. That was a game changer for how people looked at matching gift challenges. And it was met really quickly. The community stepped in all different ways, and unlocked a challenge, basically unlocked the other half of that, so that his wealth could join in the community's support to work toward a cure for cancer. So kind of a fun, inspiring story. I think there was a lot of fear at the time that it would change giving conversations, but I think ultimately we saw that it actually motivated some big donors in the community to also look about how their philanthropy dollars could create matching or challenge opportunities.
Yeah, and it's goes back to the psychology, right? Like I think matching is such a powerful way to bring together communities that may or may not have given to your organization in the past. And I think we'll have time at the end for me to share a little bit more about like some of the strategies of like what is a good matching goal for your organization. Like you don't want to go too far that it's not going to be hit, but you don't want to go too light that you're going to go blow past it in a day. And there is a good bit of strategy, and cancer is certainly a big enough cause area and it affects enough people to where you can create that kind of national wide movement around a cause. So that's a really great and powerful example. And Samantha, curious, like you said that it changed kind of the landscape of matching. What did you see that shift be like the before and after that event?
I think it actually created some influence in his circle, meaning other wealthy donors that make large gifts with big goals attached. Oftentimes, big capital investment gifts, big, contributions that the intention is to be sort of a legacy gift. There was a shift that we started to see where a lot of the conversation was moving toward how do I turn this into a bigger impact for the organizations I care about,
Hmm.
influencing kind of that match, less of the people who stepped in to match it, but the person who kind of created the challenge.
And that's such another like powerful dynamic with matching, right? Because it really is just a peer-to-peer fundraising tactic that is like on steroids, right? You're empowering that matcher who put those funds up. Like they want to get the word out. They want to see the impact for your organization, and they're going to share it with the people in their network. And there's a lot of benefits to the matcher, to those donors, and the relationships that that fosters for organizations. So appreciate you highlighting that case study, Samantha.
Yeah.
All right, so keeping it going, I mentioned in terms of pre-secured and contingent, like, does it matter? I know what nonprofits say here is that 30% of the like nonprofit fundraisers are promoting pre-secured funds as matches. Like Samantha gave my organization $10,000 last month. I asked Samantha, hey, can I put that up as a match? Of course, she's going to say yes. She wants to see her dollars go further. You want to see those dollars go further. That's kind of how it's working. Some of the time that also happens. So 75% of nonprofits most of the time or some of the time are just promoting previously donated funds as matches. But again, is this wrong? I don't think so. We're doing research to figure out whether this actually matters to donors and whether that transparency actually moves the needle on donations or not. We've got some ideas and hypotheses, but we're excited to let the data speak for itself. And Samantha would love to share that with you as one of the first people to get the report to pass that along to your
Awesome.
community.
I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you.
Uh-huh. So when it comes to matching, confidence is quite mixed, right? So we asked like how confident are you that you're taking advantage of all of the possible matching opportunities throughout the course of a year? And you can see the mixed results there in that graph. And the gap in confidence shows that nonprofits really need more support and easier tools and frameworks to be able to implement matching campaigns. I think if you haven't run a campaign before for a match, it's certainly more overwhelming. You haven't gone through the motion of planning it, running it, growing it. And happy to share exactly like a framework for doing that. But there's a big opportunity just in the education of like, how do you run a successful matching campaign, especially if your organization is resource strapped and you have 100 other priorities going on at once. So question we're asking ourselves at Match Nice, how can we as technology companies and as partners to nonprofits work to boost confidence going into planning a match, running it, and growing the impact from there? Big question. How do we make matching easier for nonprofits? We let nonprofits choose up to 3 answers. And the number one thing that floats up is an easier way to find matchers, right? Like the first question you're going to ask yourself is, who's going to put up the match? And one of the things that this kind of reveals to us is how far we have to go as a sector in terms of growing the capabilities and the confidence around matching. Because the simple approach, and when we talk to nonprofits and they ask us this question, there's really 2 easy starters, low-hanging fruit. Like, one, does your board plan on giving to your organization? Do they give for Giving Tuesday? Do they give end of year? Typically, boards give some amount of money to your nonprofit every year. Can your board put up a match, right? Like that's a really easy, safe space to begin with. The second is looking at your mid-level donors, right? Like I know Samantha gave me $10,000 for Giving Tuesday last year. Let me get ahead of that. We're 6 weeks out from Giving Tuesday. Hey, Samantha, would you be willing to put that $10,000 up as a match? We can double that money and increase the impact that you create, that our donors create, and that we can drive in terms of outcomes. So those are two first like easy steps. And where MatchNice is kind of working to unlock who the matchers can be is also creating the ability for nonprofits to crowd fund matches from everyday givers, no matter what your checkbook looks like. Anyone can be part of helping to raise a matching fund. The second thing that would make things easy is just a tool to automate matching, right? I think we shared some of the exhibits of what matching can look like today. And that comes with a lot of overhead, right? Like you're coordinating with the matcher, you're agreeing on terms off paper, most likely, and you're doing the accounting on the back end, right? Like how many donations have come through, what's the match, you're communicating with the donor, and you're really holding the entire process on your shoulders. So technology can definitely play a bigger role in that. And that goes into the next piece, which is like clear way to communicate matches, right? Like how do we templatize and create best practices for how to make the appeal to matchers, how to announce and kind of tease a match, and then how do you drive that sense of awareness and urgency when a match is live? And something to not overlook is communicating then the impact that your matching campaign had, not just to your matcher, but to your donors at large. And of course, like reducing that administrative burden that we talked about, um, education or training for staff. The number there should be 20. Looks like it's slightly off. 27% is what the figure should be. It's just like, hey, I've never done a matching campaign before. Like, where do we start? So having some tools or frameworks to be able to level up your staff to feel that confidence going into a matching campaign is really important as well. So we had an open-ended question in this survey, and we said, what's one thing that you'd change about how donation matching works today? And there's three major themes that came out from these fundraisers. Those themes were make it simple, like help us with awareness, and make the connection to our matchers and donors easier. So in the simplicity category, it's like, this should be minimum admin friction, right? Like I don't need to spend months planning for something. Like I want to put up a match next year. Next week, I just had a donor come up to me and said they're willing to put up a $10,000 match. That now becomes this fire drill. Like, oh my gosh, how do we make this happen? So making that easier, streamlining that process, leveraging technology to automate things, make it faster and easier. That's what fundraisers are saying that they want. Awareness is also big, right? Like making it easier to understand, uh, improving the transparency and how it works, right? Like reducing the confusion that might come from some of the examples that I shared. And then like the communication that goes to making your donors and supporters and your communities aware of that opportunity. And then connection comes back to the number one challenge or the number one opportunity to make matching easier, which is how do we find matchers? How do we vet those opportunities? How do we make it simple for those matchers to put up those contributions and making that discovery easier as well? So these are all pieces of data that we at MatchNice and my team have been thinking about to inform how we as an organization in the sector, as we're creating this new category of social donation matching, can leverage to make it easy for nonprofits. We know automation can help, right? So there's a degree of value. 78% of nonprofits said that having some kind of tool to automate matching would really make a pretty big difference. And looks like we have 15 minutes left. So I actually do have some time to show you just a little bit about how Match Nice works and like the ways that we're putting all of this feedback to action. So there's two things I want to do. One is I want to walk through what our core platform does. And I actually want to highlight our Giving Tuesday matching solution that we're working with nonprofits to set up to maximize the impact that they can have through matching for Giving Tuesday. But before I go there, I just want to talk about like what is Match Nice and what is our core platform. So what we do is we have a matching banner plugin that floats on your website. It shows how much is available as a match, the progress towards that match, what's remaining, a countdown towards the expiration, the end of the matching period to drive urgency, who the matchers are to build that social credibility. We talked about the psychology of all of these elements. And then the number of gifts that are doubled, right? So now we're creating that sense of community that comes into that. And we also have what we've introduced as a certified match badge, right? Which communicates to donors when they hover over it that, hey, every dollar you give is actually unlocking the dollars that are put up through this match. So it creates this window into transparency that leads to trust, the urgency and the progress that comes with that, and the spotlights and the credibility that work with that as well. So we've taken our core platform and taken it to the next level for Giving Tuesday. And I just want to show you what that looks like in action. So I'm going to shift my screen real quick to show you our platform. But before I get into that, Samantha, hello again.
Well, while you do that, I'm going to let you get your screen set up. And I just wanted to answer a question that was in the Q&A. So there is an anonymous donor who's talking about a campaign that they recently ran. It sounds like they didn't have a match, but they were running a giving campaign. And in that giving campaign, they had a lot of new donors, which is awesome and good news, but they lost donors who've given to them previously. And the question was, how do we get those donors back? And I wanted to encourage the individual with the question to think about, you didn't necessarily lose them. They're just not giving in. They just didn't give in this campaign. And that continuing to stay in communication, continuing to be in relationship with those donors, continuing to update them on your stories, your impact, your work, can all help them to feel valued and connected, and then possibly give in a future campaign. So I think there is always ebb and flow that occurs. I'm so glad to hear that you got new donors, but not every donor gives in every campaign. And sometimes you'll find that some donors prefer to give during Giving Tuesday, some prefer during a match, some prefer during an event. There's definitely reasons why folks do and don't give, including their own giving needs and what their giving trends might be. So consider them still part of your database, consider them still part of your donor base, but look to identify ways to keep them engaged, re-engage them, build relationships with them so that they'll continue to give in future campaigns. I hope that helps.
Thanks for stepping in with that. And again, as questions, just drop questions as they come through. We are going to leave at least 5 minutes for a Q&A here. This demo is not going to take very long at all. So let me share my screen and walk through this. So what you're looking at is a nonprofit's dashboard with Match Nice. I'll come back to this to kind of share a little bit more about what these metrics mean and how they work. But to set up Match Nice, it's really easy. You just go to your settings and connect to Stripe. Stripe is how we pay out matching dollars directly from matchers to your organization. So no payout periods or anything like that. Money moves directly from matchers to your nonprofit. And the second thing is connecting to your existing fundraising platform. This allows us to track real-time donations against the match and create that transparency and trust that we want to foster from the research that we found. Once those two connections are in place, you just go to embed. We have our regular matching banner, which I just shared in the slide, but I want to show you what our Giving Tuesday matching solution looks like. So we're going to copy this matching banner embed code, go to our website. You can pick a specific page or your entire website header, drop our banner embed code there, click save, and it activates our matching banner. So I'm going to cycle through this to get to the very beginning. So here we see that there's a call to action to say, hey, Giving Tuesday is in 40 days. We've got a countdown to build urgency for that. And there's a call to action for anybody. Again, this is the first crowdfunding matching solution to create a match for your organization. To create a match, it's super simple. And this is where that Stripe connection comes in. A donor just goes through and say, like, maybe they want to add $500 to your matching fund. And they can choose to donate the rest for your organization if that match is not met, to kind of create that sense of security around, like, I'm not going to lose this donor. From there, just continue to check out. They can choose to opt in. They can choose to cover your Stripe processing fees. They can make this contribution on behalf of a company, or they can be anonymous. And from there, it's just a matter of pre-authorizing that match. So what we do is we actually securely store this payment method, and the matcher isn't going to donate unless their match is met, until their match is met, or until it expires. So we pre-authorize this amount, and then let's imagine that now we've crowdfunded not just that $500 matching pledge, but we've raised a total of over $15,000 as a match, and we can continue to crowdfund matches with that call to action for other people to support that fund. So Samantha, I see that you joined back, so I'll pause for a second.
Don't click away. I want to leave the screen open. So the banner is Match Nice. What is the site below? Is that also Match Nice?
No, so this is on a nonprofit's website. So you would have your existing donation page, your existing donation flow. This banner is just there. Match Nice allows the matching pledges to be created, but ultimately we're working to drive donations through your existing fundraising platform, and offline donations can also count towards a match.
So I have two questions in the Q&A. One in specific to this is, does that also show up on the GiveButter campaign page or the giving platform you're using?
Yeah, so campaign pages, no, because those are hosted by the fundraising platform you're using. So we're unable to add this embed in, but you can still create that connection through your website. And when someone clicks donate, it's there. The banner just won't be showing when they make that donation. The best practice that we recommend is, if you're using GiveButter, take their donation widget and host the donation page on your website. There's actually a lot of research that points to that leading to more conversions, because people aren't leaving your website to make that contribution. It creates a little bit more cohesion between your brand. But whether it's a campaign page or it's on your website, or if it's an offline donation, all of those things can count towards the match.
Okay, so for non-tech people, because 6 months ago I would not have understood what you just said. For non-tech people like me, what Puya is recommending is that you use an embed window from GiveButter to have it live and exist on your website. And then this Match Nice can also go across your website, so that everything is contained within your website. It still uses GiveButter's giving platform. It still uses Match Nice's challenge banner, but then it lives within your website. It's the difference of an embed code or a widget from GiveButter or GiveLively or any of the donation platforms you use, and redirecting to their page. So keeping it in your ecosystem, it actually helps with a lot of other things, because it also helps with folks clicking around other areas of your ecosystem, increasing your SEO and traffic patterns. So there's a lot of benefits to keeping your giving page in your organization's website. But David then asked, well, how do we translate this into email blast? So how does this become a part of an email blast that's a matching challenge for general support?
Yeah, one of the things, Samantha, I'm happy to share with you and the audience today after this call is a matching strategy checklist that we put together that
Awesome.
goes through exactly how you should plan, how you can run, which includes announcing and activating your match, how you grow after the matching period, right? How do you continue to cultivate those relationships to like planning for Giving Tuesday? We do have some email templates that we're happy to share to not just announce your match, but also to solicit matchers on your side as well. So this is very new for most organizations, and that question is very valid. And we're happy to help with what that looks like. I know every organization is a little bit different, but this checklist is a great place to start. And we'll be actually sharing some resources specific to Giving Tuesday communications as well.
Amazing. Well, send those links to me. I will add them to the kind of notes of the webinar when we send it out to everyone. Um, I feel like we've like barely scratched the surface. There's so much to learn in the way of matching gifts and the opportunity. I have one last question as we wrap up, which is if I am a donor, maybe contributing $100, can I indicate the intention that I want my gift matched? Can I not just have a free, big donor lined up, but could I as an individual through Match Nice indicate I would like this to be a matching gift?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll kind of cycle through the phases real quick, and I'll go through this in full. But anyone can put up a match, right? So in this case, we've crowdfunded 15,750, and that donor who wants to give $100 can go through and create a $100 matching pledge, complete that, and then it's going to show up on your website immediately. And just to round out this experience, on Giving Tuesday, the banner updates to show the match is active, the progress, who your matchers are, the gifts doubled. And at the end of Giving Tuesday, a summary of the total impact, a thank you message, and how many gifts were doubled. If you don't get a match, no worries. There's still this option where it's going to show a call to action to support the mission and a thank you to everyone who supported your organization for Giving Tuesday. There's so much more to go into for that, but I just wanted to give a flavor of how we're leveraging all the feedback from our research to continually improve the space of donation matching. And Samantha, I really appreciate you giving me the space to not just share the research, but also share what we believe is the future of matching and what we're building at Match Nice.
Well, thank you for continuing to build tools that are resources for our nonprofit partners. I feel like there's a lot of technology out there that is available, and finding a technology tool that is good people behind good tech, providing good solutions and good resources is always an amazing find. So thank you, Puya, for coming and joining us today. Thank you to Match Nice for all of your work. I'm going to share once more in the chat because the question was, where's the case study about the event matching that we have? And then I'm going to bug you to get those links, and we'll share those out when we share this with everyone. One final announcement to let everyone know, Puya is going to be in Portland at the Elevate conference, March 3rd and 4th. And so we're going to be diving into matching gifts, more data. You have a whole bunch of more research coming out. I'm super excited to see what your new research tells us about matching gifts. So we hope folks will join us at the Elevate conference. And it's a hybrid event. So if you're not in Portland, you can travel to join us, or you can also tune in virtually. So thank you all for joining us. Justin, thank you for being here. And we hope you all have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Samantha.
Bye, everyone.